Chris Eubank Sr.'s Twitter trolling continues. Most of you hate it, but some of you, like me, actually find it entertaining. And as you know, I'm no Eubank fanboy. I have heavily criticized the Eubanks. I've criticized this pay-per-view. I don't think this is pay-per-view fair, pay-per-view worthy at all. This upcoming show headlined by Eubank Jr. versus Ronald Quinlan. But just from an entertainment standpoint, being an old school fan of WWF, I know it's now called WWE, but I used to watch it back in the WWF days. Being an old school fan of that and seeing all the, for lack of a better term, pantomime villains they used to have in there, wrestling heels and the way they would carry on. Eubank Sr. reminds me of that. He's like a wrestling heel. And I find it utterly hilarious. Whether I agree or disagree with certain business decisions he's made or what have you, I can't help but find a lot of the things that he says, at least, extremely funny. And as you see, this time around, he's continuing to troll James Degale. Well, both him and his son have been trolling James Degale in the wake of Degale's majority draw with Badou Jack. And Eubank Sr. says, the IBF and WBC are valuable, and Chris Eubank Jr. is taking both. Which one of you is first? Choose quickly, otherwise I will choose for you. He obviously atted Badou Jack and he atted James Degale, as well as ITV box office. I don't know what he means by that. It's trolling at the end of the day, so he's being sarcastic and whatnot, but perhaps there is some method to this madness. I don't know. Choose quickly or I will choose for you. Well, Eubank Jr. isn't, as far as I'm aware, mandatory or even ranked by the IBF or the WBC at super middleweight. So, unless he gets ranked by either of those organizations, then Eubank Sr. will not be able to force a fight with either one of them. And Badou Jack is talking about moving up anyway. And we'll find out if that's actually true, because after a performance like that, I struggle to believe that Badou Jack is really killing himself to make the weight as badly as him and Floyd Mayweather claim. They claim that it's so bad that he can't even make super middleweight ever again. He has to move up in his next fight, and he's going to say no to a rematch with James Degale. So make of that what you will. But Badou Jack's moving up anyway. James Degale recently, in the past week or so, has said that he would not fight Chris Eubank Jr. That he won't fight him. I think there will be some public pressure for James Degale to fight Chris Eubank Jr. particularly if this ITV box office show, this first show, is even moderately successful. I think the British public will start putting pressure on James Degale to fight Eubank Jr. And these two have got a long history. They were both with Mick Hennessy a while ago. And it might have even been before Eubank was with Mick Hennessy, or maybe when he just joined Mick Hennessy, I'm not sure. But he contacted James Degale, I think it was on Facebook, behind the scenes. And he told him, I don't hate you, but we should have a rivalry because one day we're going to fight. He basically told James Degale that they should start throwing shots at each other publicly. Create a fake beef, basically. That's what Eubank Jr. was saying. But James Degale wasn't down with it, and he exposed it publicly and said, this is what Eubank Jr. tried to do. And while they were both with Mick Hennessy, James Degale was begging Hennessy to let him fight Eubank Jr. So he wanted to fight then. But now, for whatever reason, James Degale was totally fed up with the Eubanks. And he's saying, you know what? I don't want to fight Chris Eubank. He's got nothing that I want. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this WBC belt. Obviously, Callum Smith is going to get a shot at it. So, if Badou Jack vacates, you can have Callum Smith versus the next available contender. I believe some people have been saying it will be Anthony Durrell. So, I don't know, maybe Eubank can get himself in there somewhere. He's been talking about unifications, but as other people, including Eddie Hearn, have rightly pointed out, the other sanctioning bodies do not recognize the IBO as a legitimate sanctioning body. In order to have a unification, you have to, the sanctioning body whose belt you have has to be recognized by the other sanctioning bodies. The IBO is not. Therefore, unification and unification terms do not apply. All right. So anyway, let me know what you think about Chris Eubank Sr. Are you tired of his trolling? Do you find any of this entertaining? I've noticed that a lot of people are just miserable. A lot of people don't see the humor in a lot of things. At the end of the day, by putting these tweets out, are the Eubanks hurting anybody? They're not hurting anybody. They're antagonizing other fighters and promoters. Yeah, but this is a business where the objective is to put two guys in the ring so they can beat the crap out of each other. It's violence. Isn't the violence itself distasteful? If you're worried about what people are saying on Twitter, goading other fighters, look at the actual sport itself. It's violence. You want to talk about what's distasteful. So I just can't quite reconcile that. People saying things about each other on Twitter, saying we're coming for the rest of your teeth, and people being offended by that. But you just watched the fight where somebody got his teeth knocked out and you were loving it. So I don't get it. A lot of people are just miserable and they don't see the humor in things. Also, there's a lot of people who are adamant that boxing is in a terrible state right now. Oh, boxing's terrible. Oh, these fights are all garbage. Some people are just miserable all the time about boxing. And I don't get it. I don't know why you watch boxing if you're always moaning and miserable. I'm definitely a glasses half full type character when it comes to boxing. For me, there's loads of good fights going on in the world of boxing these days. Nothing terrible at all. Yeah, there's some things here and there to complain about. There's some things here and there that are frustrating. But for the most part, I love boxing and I'm not always miserable about it like some people. I know I'm diverting and going off into a whole different tangent here, but still, I'm just going to finish on this. There are great fights that are going on at the moment. Last year, we saw a welterweight classic. Yes, I've been around for decades watching boxing. It was a welterweight classic between Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. This year already, we've seen an all-time super middleweight classic between James Degale and Badou Jack. And we've got Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia coming up. There's so much to look forward to in boxing. There's so many good things happening. There were plenty of good fights last year, plenty of upsets and compelling situations. So I love boxing. You know, I wouldn't be doing this on this channel for this long if the majority of things going on in boxing were negative. In my mind, I wouldn't be doing it. I don't even know why certain people even bother commenting on boxing and being in boxing groups on Facebook and commenting on boxing related videos on YouTube when all they ever do is complain about how bad everything is. I don't get it. Why do you watch the sport then? You know, there must be something good, or maybe you're just addicted to misery and complain. I don't know. Anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about everything I talked about in this video. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.